They have a time crunch on top of the big problem that they have. So great. Demand is there. With that being said, it's not really attractive work that we do, right? Sucking up water, getting rid of soot, dealing with mold. That's not attractive. What is attractive is our opportunity to be Superman every day for that homeowner.
Hello, and welcome to the Perfect Franchise Podcast.
I'm Kris, and joining me is my wonderful co-host, Andrea.
In this podcast, we're on a mission to help you discover all that franchising has to offer.
We'll explore expert strategies, interview successful franchise owners, and give you the tools to make informed decisions.
So whether you're considering your options or you're ready to take that plunge, we're here to support you every step of the way.
So let's jump into today's episode. Hi, welcome back to another episode of the TPF podcast. Today, Andrea and I, super excited to have Zach Munroe with us. Zach is the VP of Franchise Development for Stellar Service Brands and specifically for Restoration One. Zach, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Zach. So Zach, let's kind of start out with a little bit of the background on Stellar Brands. And I know we're going to focus on one of your brands today, but give us sort of the backstory. How did the company begin and how did it evolve to sort of this multi-concept franchisor?
Absolutely. Well, we're gonna focus a lot on Restoration One today, but that's where the history starts. So in 2008, Restoration One was founded by a Hungarian immigrant after he experienced a loss in Florida. Right. Every time we get that invoice at our home from a home service concept, I say, I'm in the wrong business. Right. Well, he acted on that and he started Restoration One, ultimately operating it not as a franchise up until 2014. Prior to that, in 2013, one of our sister brands was started independently of Restoration One all the way over there in Phoenix, and that's Blue Frog Plumbing and Drain. So you got Restoration One started in Florida, you got Blue Frog started in Phoenix. They don't know each other yet. However, in 2016, the founder of Restoration One realized, hey, it's time to bring in someone with some experience to kind of spearhead our growth. As they started franchising Restoration One in 2014, he brought in a guy by the name of Gary Finley, very well known in the industry, and that was in 2016. All operations for Restoration One were moved to Waco, Texas. And in 2017, Gary and the founder of Restoration One actually purchased Blue Frog. So now you've got two brands under one portfolio, which makes up Stellar, right? 2018, the company surpassed 200 operating units, and in 2020, we were acquired by MPK Equity Partners. So that would be a private equity group. 2021, Stellar was formed. Company was moved to Dallas so that we can recruit better talent. And no offense to Waco, but the talent pool in Dallas is pretty large. So as we were looking to scale to better support our franchisees, we wanted to make sure we were in a geographic area that we would have the best talent. And that leads us to where we're at today. Today, we've got Jessica Westcott. She's running the show. We're over 200 operating territories for all of our brands and cooking.
Okay. So, Zach, Restoration One's the flagship brand for Stellar Service Brands. So let's not assume any knowledge by our audience today. When we say restoration, some people don't know what that means. So exactly what's Restoration One doing? How's the business model work, high level?
Yes. So Restoration One is water, fire, mold remediation at its core, right? So if a pipe bursts in your house and all of a sudden you got 2 inches of water in your kitchen, what do? Well, you probably call a plumber. They fix the leak, but then you got to call someone in to help with the water, extract the water, and make sure that the house is back to normal. Because if you don't do that, then you're going to get some mold, right? And especially if you're in areas with humidity. So water, fire, mold remediation. Our services are needed. Man-made problems, right? People bursting pipes, but also global warming has made an impact on the number of claims out there right now.
So Zach, help me out because I think to hit on Kris's questions, a lot of people think, okay, I have some sort of damage, whether it's smoke, water, fire. Insurance is going to pay for most of that, right? Like I just need to call the insurance company, they're going to deal with it, and then they call you. How does that work?
Yeah, so that's actually changed a little bit with ChatGPT and Google, and a lot of the newer generations are actually going to these resources before they go to the insurance companies. Because as we know, if you call an insurance company, whether you file a claim or not, you're going to be dinged. Almost the same. So a lot of people are doing their research first. This is where we spend a lot of time on digital for franchisees, making sure that they show up when someone Googles water damage. We don't actually bid on the word restoration because that's not in most people's vocabulary. It's like water loss, bursted pipe, smoke, fire. It's not restoration. That's just not in someone's vocabulary until they actually have a loss. So with that being said, the industry has changed slightly. People aren't calling the insurance companies as much because they're doing their homework ahead of time, and they're finding us on ChatGPT, other AI platforms, Google, what have you, where we're spending time and effort trying to find the actual homeowner before they go direct to the insurance provider. Now, with that being said, 95% of claims that we handle are ultimately paid out by insurance, but we're more of a consultant helping that homeowner to decide, does it make sense to file the claim? Or does it make sense to pay out of pocket with rising premiums or the potential to get dropped by your insurance provider?
Okay. Well, I've always liked the restoration industry as a whole because, number one, it has what I call urgent demand, right? People don't need you a month from now, and they're probably not getting 10 quotes and, shopping price too much. It's about, can you do it, and can you do it today, tomorrow, right? And I think, the idea that my insurance is going to pay for this problem I have, that's also a nice thing as well. But we were talking before this podcast started that franchisees have kind of a certain opportunity to be the hero, and it also means you're looking for a certain kind of franchisee, right, with a certain temperament. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that we tell candidates that we're looking for, that great franchisees have, is this ability to respond well under pressure. When someone's calling you, they got a problem, right? We're definitely in the needs category versus the wants category. In most homeowners policies, they have to get to it. They have to have an issue remediated in a certain amount of time, or insurance doesn't cover it. So they have a time crunch on top of the big problem that they have. So great. Demand is there. With that being said, it's not really attractive work that we do, right? Sucking up water, getting rid of soot, dealing with mold. That's not attractive. What is attractive is our opportunity to be Superman every day for that homeowner. Every homeowner that calls us has a problem. We have the opportunity to solve that problem and be Superman.
So it's very need-based, business. And so you're going in when someone's in sort of that panic phase.
Yes,
and
very much so.
So tell me, what's the hardest part about running a restoration company and getting this off the ground?
I think the hardest part in the beginning is we need people that are motivated to get out in their community. Our number one lead source in the beginning is going to be driven by the boots on the ground activity. Our referral partners, most of them are going to be plumbers, right? Because they get the call for the leak, and then that plumber is going to make the direct introduction to us if we have a solid relationship in place. Yes, there's normally compensation involved there too. It's also getting out in the community and meeting Bob Smith State Farm on the side of the road, right? Not State Farm Corporate, but Bob Smith. He's got a different agenda than State Farm Corporate, which we go into detail with candidates to explain all that down the line. Property managers, multifamily properties have issues. Tenants don't necessarily treat things as good as homeowners. Issues arise sometimes quicker. So making friends and building relationships with property managers and maintenance technicians who work from 5 to 9, which is when all the stuff happens, right? It's on the evenings. That's really what will drive someone's success in year one as they're building their digital presence, which is how our model's built.
Okay. So let's stick on this topic because I think this is an important point. A lot of folks that I've seen look at restoration as a business, they kind of assume that, hey, as long as the franchisor, in this case, Restoration One, has relationships with the insurance companies, then I just kick my feet up on the desk and wait for insurance companies to tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, Kris, you got another job. So talk to that. All this boots on the ground means that it's not that easy, right?
Exactly. I mean, you got to work at it. What existing franchisees, should you have the opportunity to talk to them, will tell you is you got to work, but it's incredibly rewarding when you do. Now, what you're referring to a little bit is there's two different sides of the coin in restoration. There's the independent side, and then there's the program work side. Restoration One is the largest independent restoration company in the country. The program side comes with a lot of pros, right? You got the direct relationships with the insurance providers. They're sending you the leads. You don't got to get out there in the community. But then you got to ask the question, what do I have to give up to get that work, right? Insurance companies have agendas. They have shareholders, right? They got to make profit so that they can give back to those shareholders. How do they do that? It's sometimes by limiting the amount paid out on a claim, right? Sometimes that can lead to a restoration company not being able to fix the problem completely because they have a pre-negotiated scope with that insurance provider that they agreed to 2 years ago, right? And grandma's house doesn't get fixed how it should be fixed. Restoration One, yes, where we get our leads is slightly different, but that allows us to do business by the book. It allows us to fix grandma's house exactly how we'd fix our own grandma's house. Being able to do it by the book also allows us to run with a little bit of higher margins because we don't have to discount certain things to get that work in the door. So that's kind of the difference. I mean, both models work really well. There's competitors on both sides. It's just two different ways of going about it.
So Zach, kind of saying on that, how do you market yourself differently? Like as a homeowner, how do I know that I potentially could get a lot more done by not going out to the insurance company? Maybe you're saying the ChatGPT type stuff, but are you going out and kind of marketing it a little bit different so people understand the difference between those two categories, independent versus a larger corporation?
Yeah, I think what's going on in the world with insurance right now is actually helping us a little bit. People are being a little bit more curious before they just pick up the phone and call the insurance people. And we're sitting there waiting, right? We're buying the digital leads. We're playing the SEO game. We're writing blog posts in a tone that is going to be tailored to an AI search engine picking it up. So it might not make sense if you read it without that in mind, but we're keeping that in mind because people are going to ChatGPT first, oftentimes with the newer generations. So the education, I think, comes a little bit when they reach out. We provide a free assessment. We'll come out to the house. We'll assess it for free. It's kind of hard to get any home service out to your house for free these days, but we assess it for free. And we look at, okay, it's going to cost, we think, $5,000 to $8,000 for this basic water job. Your deductible's $6,000. Maybe we should look at not going through insurance on this because it'll save you in the long run on premiums. We can offer some financing solutions as well on top of that to help remediate the situation so the homeowner doesn't have to feel stressed about the finances. And we're really coaching them on that.
If we can change directions here just quickly, you guys have been around for a long time. You're a fairly mature franchise. So 2 questions wrapped up in one. What's it look like if I'm a brand new franchise owner of Restoration One? What's it look like for me to get started? What do I have to have in place? Do I have to have an office outside of the home? Am I investing in vehicles and equipment? How many employees am I starting with? What do those guys need to know? And then infused in that question is, as I'm setting all this up and then launching, what are you, the franchisor, doing for me as far as training and support to help me launch? So,
no, good question. And it starts with making sure we find the right fit, right? That's why it's so important and why we really spend time with the relationships with TPF, for example, and making sure that we're finding the right candidates that have the right transferable traits that ultimately we're going to give them the playbook and they're going to do very well within that playbook because they have the traits coming in and we vetted them. So that's where it all starts. When someone comes in, they normally ask the question, how many employees do I have to start? There's 3 different models. Option 1, chuck in the truck, they hire a salesperson. If they're in the truck, they can't do the sales. Sales is a full-time job, as we all know. Option 2, they're going to be the owner and wear all the owner hats. Plus, they're going to be the salesperson out in the community. This is going to be your mayor of the town type candidate. And they're going to hire a tech to do the jobs. Great. I like option 1 better than I like option 2 better than option 1. Option 3 is the quickest way to scale. And that's the owner wears all the owner hats that comes with being an owner of any business. They hire a technician and they hire a salesperson. If they have people doing those 2 tasks, they can focus on the business, not in the business. And we know that's what's required to scale. So those are the operating models. So I always tell people it is owner plus 1 or owner plus 2 to start. As we scale, they will know when they need to add more technicians and more vans. They're going to start with one van. If they continuously are getting calls and aren't able to respond within 2 hours of those calls because they're doing other jobs, time to invest, right? So pretty easy to understand. You can either buy vans, you can lease vans. There's different options to scale, and pros and cons to both as well. So as they're scaling, they're building their team based on demand. And they're building that with usually technicians. These technicians, this is not a licensed trade like our plumbing business is. There are certain certifications that you might go after in this industry, but you don't have them. You don't have to have them to do the work. In the beginning, I always recommend hiring a technician that has experience, because you don't. You're going to have training, right? But hire someone with a little bit of experience, pay them a little bit more. That will go a long way. And then you might be able to take a chance on somebody new as your second technician, because you've got someone that can train them in addition to yourself. So spend a little bit more money on the front end to get that more experienced tech. That will help you on the back end. And then you scale based on demand. And you're going to know certain times of years when those storms roll through, you might need to scale up that time of year. But we want to make sure that we're doing it smart and we're not scaling up too much to where we can't cover that cost on potentially when we don't have storms rolling through. So there's 5 different stages of growth. Our ops team does a great job walking people through it and making sure they know where they stand at all times.
That's great. Well, great, Zach. Thanks so much for coming in and chatting a little bit about Stella Brands and a lot about Restoration One. We appreciate that. We like to kind of pivot a little at this podcast, and we like to ask your advice. And so, our audience are our clients that are listening and trying to figure out, is franchising for them, and if so, what's the right brand? So these are kind of more generic questions, not specific to your brand, but start me out. What's one thing that you would tell somebody who's contemplating becoming a franchisee of any business? What's one piece of advice?
Yeah, I feel a little bit qualified. Yes, I'm young, but this is all I've ever done. I'm 12 years into franchise development. Don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're just trying to figure that thing out. But I've seen a thing or two with multiple different brands. And the advice that I would give them, 2 points. One, talk to franchisees. Please talk to franchisees. Going further on that, the bottom is the bottom for a reason. In your corporate job, the bottom 20% of salespeople are in the bottom 20% for a reason. If you don't think you're going to be average or above, find a different franchise. Don't even waste time talking to those franchisees. Spend the time talking to average and above, and then really write down your traits and try to figure out if you can see yourself in them. Like, do they have the same traits as you? Maybe not the same background, but do they have the same traits? That would be my tip. And then really look into the field team that's helping you every day, and do they have relevant experience? That would be my 2 tips.
That's great advice. So now kind of pivot. The other question is going to be, somebody's already bought the franchise. They're in that first year where it's really challenging. What advice are you going to give somebody in that first year?
Yeah, they're drinking from the fire hose, right?
Yeah.
Stay open would be good advice. But I think it starts a little bit before that. I know we want to talk about they're already in business, but you got to be set up. You got to plan for the first year, and making sure you have enough working capital is a basic requirement that I think a lot of brands, they don't list enough. Make sure there's enough working capital in there for that first year, and then ultimately managing your cash flow that first year. Making sure that you're not going to buy the new truck right when you get your first big check for the quarter, right? You might go get a nice little truck, but reinvest that money, because a lot of brands and models, they're built on reinvestment and stages of growth. And if you're taking too much out of the business the first year, that's going to stunt your growth in year 2, 3, 4, 5, because you haven't invested what you needed to be ready for year 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, thanks, Zach, so much for coming on. I think restoration, I think Kris said it in the beginning, is one that we really like. It's obviously a need-based. It's an emergency, and you have to have it done. And I think you really sort of went through the options, and I think really even highlighting the differences between the different types of companies that are out there. And then when you go through insurance versus not, I think that's really helpful for people to understand this market and see the there's a lot of work out there. It's just how are you going to kind of approach it and kind of going with the right company. So I really appreciate you coming on today, Zach. So if you're thinking about franchising, remember that while there's no one-size-fits-all, the perfect franchise for you is definitely out there. To explore your options, visit theperfectfranchise.com and click on Let's Talk to schedule a call with a consultant on the Perfect Franchise team. We look forward to connecting with you again on our next episode.